We love to hate, and we hate to love. Why? Because whoever we love eventually goes away and pains us. Then we hate on something to make ourselves feel better. That sounds anime as hell, right? Despite how over the top it may sound, there is some truth in it that, if it weren't so dramatized, it'd probably seem a lot more digestible. A lot of people use coping mechanisms whether it's healthy or not, and there's always going to be some new thing to challenge us at some point, and for the most part, you eventually face it. Occasionally, it can change people's perspectives on things, even if these events aren't considered quote-unquote important. People get up in arms when they see something they don't like in said thing they want to like or want to hate. Either or, depending on the personality of that person, it can affect them and cause them to complain about it, or laugh about it and walk away. Things can hit too close to home and drive away others. Said things could also have some wiggle room and keep in certain crowds of some fantasy. Creative liberties are to be had if you are trying to create something grounded, especially in something like a video game. Hate to see the same old routines. Hate to see the same overdone twists and turns. Hate to see the world soundly spinning. Hate to see a planet in predictable chaos. Hate to see the same looking figures. Hate to see a new face trying too hard to be different. This is a time where so many ideas have already been done before, yet there's so much that can still be done. It's up to audiences to react appropriately to innovation or uniquely shaped things. There is no in-between. Mixed reviews might as well just be completely negative. Not all people are keen on using their time to play something they have heard mixed things about. Personal preferences make up the rest of the decision determining whether or not a mixed thing is enough for a person to touch it. Character design, music, setting, genre. It's all in the eye of the beholder. Deeper within is the process of game development, which is pretty much like a bag of potato chips. You can crush the chips from outside it, but still not really know how or what has changed exactly inside. Once you open the bag, you can see all little pieces that make up the chips that have either cracked or stayed in one piece, or just straight up dust. It's predictable, yet unpredictable, and even though those chips may seem to be made in a bunch of big, differently shaped pieces, it all goes back to the people who farmed all those potatoes in the first place. The passion therein, and despite what product comes eventually, exists all thanks to its origin. Building off of that origin and creating something special and sustainable is a goal that farmers want to do. Same goes to game companies. Everyone knew Mario, so then came Sonic. Everyone knew Ryu, so then came Scorpion. Everyone knew Cloud, so then came Sora, and so on and so forth. Sometimes developers like to subvert expectations and do something differently. Whether or not this works is a gamble, and in reality is mostly just seen as a blunder, but sometimes it's just an honest attempt at creating something unique. Underrated or not, there's dozens of examples of this. Ones that worked, like Metroid Prime, and ones that didn't, like Sonic Boom. RPGs were seen as games that could only work in fantasy worlds, but games like Earthbound, Front Mission, Live Alive, and Shin Megami Tensei all disproved that notion. Specifically, Shin Megami Tensei went to create even more contemporary games, such as Shin Megami Tensei If, Devil Summoner, and eventually Persona. It's not known to many, but the very first Persona was the best-selling entry until Persona 5. Why? There wasn't many games that specifically tried to target the demographic interested in the high school setting, which anime and manga had made ever increasingly popular. Not to mention the creators of this game, which could be considered a part of the best staff ever in Rotation Atlas in their entire history, had thought out the goals of the game extremely well. Satomi Tadashi, the scenario writer, explained how the script was supposed to appeal and relate to younger people at the time who were still in grade school, but still appeal to an older audience, giving them a sense of nostalgia and reminding them of their youth. It had this playful, dreamlike atmosphere, which definitely furthers the purpose the game was trying to fulfill. It was heavily focused on characters, and the development, unlike its predecessors, were trying to push more morals and ideals first and foremost. Succeeding Persona came Persona 2 Innocent Sin. A game that dropped the goal of the previous game and instead tried to create an unbelievable, extreme scenario. Bring the player down to earth with flawed, lovable, and real characters. It still used high schoolers as the main characters, but introduced adult party members who were also integral to the story and the development of the other characters. It also featured more prominent adult side characters who felt less cartoonish than the ones in the previous century. With this game, it attained kind of more of a grounded cast of characters, even with the absurdity that is literally making Hitler a boss character with philosophical motives and a quote-unquote cool aspiration. The game still achieves its aforementioned real-life rigidness to its main party. The real meat and potatoes of the Persona 2 duology, though, comes in Eternal Punishment, which comes after Innocent Sin. Some may say this game was unnecessary or wanted to shoehorn Persona 1 characters simply to make people return to the series, but no matter what the stance is, Tadashi, Koji, and Kaneko all had this in mind when Persona 2 was still in its early phases of development. Eternal Punishment this time decided to have an all-adult cast which vastly changed the way players had come to know the world of Persona. Most RPGs have these burly adult men who killed a bunch of stuff and be badass, or younger anime boys who were destined to save the world. Many RPGs obviously had their own strengths and weaknesses, and some of the seemingly normal ones were actually good, but at least from a surface level, Eternal Punishment was a completely different beast, especially to older players seeing the world from the eyes of adult characters, their dialogue, the way the plot was advanced, and their relationships were approached from a very unique angle. Just like Innocent Sin, the plot of the game can be considered anything but realistic, but with this specific cast of characters comes probably one of the most organic and believable relationships between characters in entertainment media. There are many movies that could probably rival this line of thought, but there's something the way the script tackles the problems of adults and lays them out in a very human and straightforward fashion that added that layer of realism to the party. The struggle between the Sou brothers' ability to understand each other and their love for Maya, the bitter relations between Baofu and Ulala, Ulala's inability to find a significant other, and her pursuit of beauty. Not to mention all the small conversations between the characters in places like the stores that slowly build each party member's profile for what they like, what they hate, and even just opinions on mundane things that make you feel like you're listening to someone mumble about basic everyday things in real life. When major events happen to certain characters in the story, there isn't always just some usual sense of mystery. Sometimes what happens is transparent or is expected by other party members and makes you even feel, if you, the player, aren't thinking ahead, these characters do. No matter how comedic or irresponsible they can be at times, you can't ever doubt them for what they truly are: grown adults. Persona has already proven its ability at this point to not baby the player and keep them guessing of unexpected conclusions and ideas. With these characters added, it only can help deliver a more fleshed out story. Tadashi already found out the best way to deliver and create relationships in a video game in the year 2000. For the love of its characters, we of the future must remember it and create even more exciting, intelligent, and passionate projects to honor those who put this type of media on the map for the world to see.